Arroz con camarones or rice with shrimp. And remember, if I can cook it, so can you. So go nowhere. Let's create. I have some nice looking shrimp here. See, I haven't peeled it. I'm not going to peel it. I'm going to go old school with them. 2 cups of rice. I have about 6, maybe 8 cups of water that I'm going to use for something. Not for necessary for the rice yet. I will show you what I'm going to do with it. I have what I call my own homemade sazon, which consists of about half a teaspoon of smoked paprika, couple teeth of garlic, which I mince, 1/4 of a teaspoon of turmeric, a little bit of pepper, and I have a little bit of cumin. The cumin is optional. I do have some sea salt, fine. If it's not fine, you can smash it down to make it fine if it's the more coarse type. I have a tomato, which I use to create my own tomato sauce. What I did is I'm going 100% natural, so I grated the tomato. I have what we call in Puerto Rico sofrito. But sofrito is actually a cooking method that when you're preparing your stews or arroz con gandulo, whatever. And in reality, if you don't have it preserved, this is preserved sofrito. This is how we do in Puerto Rico. We put all the appropriate ingredients to create a sofrito. We run it through a blender and then we freeze them for later use in case we're missing an ingredient or whatever. In this case, I'm going to use my preserved sofrito because I couldn't find cilantro and culantro. Now, if you have cilantro at hand, you don't need culantro because if you don't have culantro, you can use cilantro too in excess, So in essence, you use, some leaf of cilantro. You can use a little bit of, a tablespoon of onions, and chop them. Couple teeth of garlic, mince them. You can use a tablespoon of bell pepper, combined of red and green bell pepper, and a couple other ingredients, like oregano and things like that. And then you cook it on the spot, and it tastes, more fresh. But having the sofrito is convenient if you constantly use it because now you don't have to go to the chopping method. Link in the description describing how to use this, create this sofrito, as well as how to use it in the event that you don't have sofrito. I have another link on how to use it. And for oil, I'm going to use my annatto oil, which I created. Took less than 2 minutes. I have the annatto seeds and I created my own. I do have a link also in the description. Very short video that shows you how to prepare this. So I have the stove at high heat for now because I want the pot to heat up evenly. This is kind of relatively deep. Un calderito, un caldero, like say in Puerto Rico. I'm going to put the shrimp. The amount of shrimp is up to you. I have about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe about 12 pieces. I might not use them all. And what you're going to do, you're going to boil them. And I have here 6 cups of water. And actually, you know what? I'm going to make it 8 cups. And what I'm doing here, in addition of boiling the shrimp, kind of cooking it, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to use the water for my rice. Not all the water, but the amount of water that I'm going to need, I'm going to use it for the rice. So I'm creating a broth, a sort of broth. So I have it at high heat. When it starts boiling, what you're going to do, then you reduce the heat to medium. Once the shrimps turn orange, it's time to move it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to strain the water out so none of the impurities are transferred. Now you have a nice looking broth. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to preheat this pot or caldero. It's a cast iron with an enamel, French. It means that it's cast iron with glass design merged together. And I've been preheating it at high because I want the heat to distribute to the entire. It's hot right now here, but it takes a little bit longer for cast iron to distribute due to the property of cast iron. So something you have to be aware for the liquid that you're going to use, and I'm going to use that broth where I cook the shrimp. It's going to be unknown at first, but you can set things up. I know at the very minimum that I have 2 cups of rice. Therefore, I already put aside 2 1/4 cup of broth. I put it aside. Of course, I have other solids like the shrimp. Therefore, I'm going to need a little bit more broth. I don't know how much yet. And it's getting there. Let me lower the heat a couple notches below high. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to start with your annatto oil. That's oil. You don't have to freeze it or refrigerate it. You can leave it outside when you pre-prepare. You can use it weeks later. And it's going to give that beautiful color. So it's not, you're not going to use that packaged sazon that give you that fake orange. You just use this. Then you add your sofrito. You don't want it burnt. Just add it and cook it for a few seconds. Now what you're going to do now, you're going to add your shrimp. You can peel it in advance. I won't. I'm just going to go all full. Mix things up for a few seconds. And add your tomato sauce. Then what you do, you add your sazon mix. This steam is hot, by the way. You mix things up. And what you're going to do, you're going to add a little bit of your broth now, enough to cover the shrimp. Just a little bit, just enough to cover the shrimp. Enough to cover the shrimp. And now what you're going to do, you're going to add the 2 1/4 cup. And this is an estimate. You might to have to add a little bit more. Turn the heat back up. You want to mix things around a little bit. And you're going to give things a taste because you're going to need some salt. So you're going to add some salt. going with sea salt. You notice that my broth, I didn't put salt when I was cooking it with the shrimp. I could have done that, but I like to control that because I want to keep some of that broth for later use, the one that I have on the other container. And then what you do is you mix things up a little bit. And you let this boil for a few seconds. Let it boil. Good. Now that it's boiling, add your 2 cups of rice. Make sure it's mixed up. And what I do is I measure it from here to the top of the rice. And this is about 1/4 inch. This is how much more liquid I want over the solid. Let it boil for a minute or so. Why don't you let it boil for a minute or so you don't move it anymore. And you can cook much more rice, by the way. I just cook in 2 cups. And I'm using a big pot because I want you to see it in the picture, but you could have done 4 cups of rice and add more water. So now that it's boiling, what you're going to do, you're going to reduce the heat to medium. And you're going to cover this baby. And I'm going to let it cook for about maybe, I would say about 10 minutes, but I'm going to take a look in the 5-minute mark just to see how this is cooperating. So about 12 minutes later, the rice started to, not the rice, but the water, or the liquid, the broth, started to reduce. So you start moving it a little bit, not a lot because it's not even nearly ready. And you don't go crazy with the movement. You go like, move it a little bit, just a little bit. Just a little bit. And I'm doing this so it doesn't stick at the bottom. But you can see it's still water there, so, or liquid. So what I'm doing is making sure it doesn't stick at the bottom too much. I haven't stirred the rice yet. I just moving things around a little bit because it's still a lot of liquid. It's not ready yet. Over again. Continue, let it cook. 2 minutes later, let me uncover this. Move some of this stuff around. And now you carefully, using a different spoon this time around, instead of my wooden one. Lift and drop. Lift and drop. And it's nothing you can do about what we call pegao, the bottom. Lift and drop. You're going to have some because of the sauce and the sofrito. You know, it's going to stick a little bit at the bottom. But you can minimize that. Lift and drop. And by lifting and dropping, you're ensuring the rice doesn't get too sticky. Lift and drop carefully. Lift and drop. Lift and drop. Lift and drop. And that way it cooks on the top too. Cover again. I'm going to lower the heat a little bit more, you know, like to medium low. Let it cook a little bit longer. 2 minutes later, see how it's looking? Let me use a fork. See? It's not sticky, no nothing. Let me give it a taste. It's ready, it's not crunchy, that means that's cooked. So this is what I'm going to do now. Simply bring some island memories. And I'm going to do that by grabbing some banana peel. I'm going to cover this baby, turn the heat to, actually I'm going to turn it, I have it on low now, but I'm going to turn it off where I leave the caldero or pot on top of the stove. And I'm going to leave it there for a minute or two. And then once I do that, I'm going to take it out completely. But it's off, it just happened to be hot. Cover, this is optional. If you don't want to do this, then you just take it out because it's ready, okay? Cover up a little bit.